is up, everyone? Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 364. What's
I almost
so funny?
left you hanging.
You cut off the hay pretty quickly.
I almost didn't start.
Let me go off into the yonder there. Excited about tonight's show because we get to bring on our dear friends Brian and Andrea Morrison. Anytime we get to talk to either one of these individuals, it's a wonderful show. Andrea's been on the show, but it's been a while. I feel like when we have them together, it's awesome. The stories, we actually get to hear the truth in the stories when we have them both on. It's wonderful. Tonight's show is going to be all about a recent adventure that both Brian and Andrea took their kids on. They went for a 6-day backpacking trip. And this is something that we've seen it kind of pop up in discussions on our Discord server and stuff like that across the board, is how can I adventure with my family? Or what are the best things to do with my family that get them into the outdoors and help sort of bring the ultra world and the trail world into our family's lives. So we're excited to discuss that tonight with Brian and Andrea Morrison about their recent adventure. Welcome to the show, everyone. Sit back, relax. Ginger Runner Live begins now.
Ginger Runner.
Yay! What is up, everybody? Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 364. Thank you for taking some time out of your busy Mondays to spend a little bit of it with us.
Mm-hmm.
How are you?
Doing well.
Good.
You just jumped right to it. You went off script. You're already talking to me.
I don't have to. Would you
right.
prefer I didn't?
Yeah, let's go back to...
Excited about tonight's show because we get to bring on two of our dear friends, Brian and Andrea Morrison. We've had them on the show in the past, and if you're not familiar with them, they're wonderful humans, wonderful runners. They own the Fleet Feet Seattle and Fleet Feet Ballard stores, running stores here in Seattle, Washington. They do so much for our sport, and Brian was also the subject of the movie A Decade On that I made many, many years ago, his return to Western States. Andrea was a big part of that movie and making that happen. So we're going to welcome them on the show tonight here in just a second. We're going to talk about a subject that I'm actually excited to hear some of the stories from this. I just know the Morrisons, and I know stuff. They have some of the best damn stories from their family adventures. They recently went on a 6-day overnight backpacking trip through the Olympic Mountains with their two kids, Jack and Amalia. And we're going to find out what happened. How was it? How do you plan for something like this? How can you and your family look towards adventure and get your kids outside, get them away from the TV and the video games?
But especially during this time when
Right.
maybe we're sticking closer to home or trying to find adventure, in your own backyard.
Yeah. So we'll welcome them onto the show here in just a second. I'm excited about the show. It should be a glorious time. But of course, before we introduce our guests, we do want to recognize you.
That's not
Off script.
off script.
Throwing randoms at you. Hi, Kim. How are you?
Hi, everyone. Kim Tashima Newberry here as always. If you're new to the chat, pop in, say hello. If you have questions for the Morrisons, you can ask them in there as well. Since we are live, we'll be taking questions for the next 40 minutes or so.
Yeah. Also, before we introduce our guests, we do like to thank certain members of the community. They are our GR crew. They are the reason that we're able to do these live shows every Monday, do our reviews, which also dropped today, different films and all that sort of stuff. It is because of our GR crew we're able to do that. If you would like to join the GR crew, all you got to do is go to patreon.com/thegingerrunner, and all tiers get access to all sorts of cool perks and stuff. We absolutely love our crew. They're wonderful humans, and the community, we cannot say enough positive things about the community. Two individuals in particular at that top tier we like to recognize at the top of Ginger Runner Live episodes. First, Brian Sands. Brian Sands has been a longtime supporter. He's an amazing human, truly inspirational, ran his first marathon ultra. Last year did his first 100-miler as a DIY project. He's now looking at going back to Javelina coming up this fall. He's, again, just a wonderful member of the community. Rick Bjarnason as well. We like to thank Rick at the top of the show. His company, cheekymonkeymedia.ca. They're a web design and a web maintenance company. They redid the gingerrunner.com website about a year ago, and it's just dynamite. We're so excited to have them on board. Rick himself, also wonderful ultra runner.
Yes.
And super cool human. So thank you to both Brian, Rick, and the entire GR crew. We appreciate you all more than you will ever know. Without further ado, I would like to welcome our two guests tonight, coming to us from the same location, because I believe
Do they live together?
they live together. Brian and Andrea Morrison.
Yay!
Hello.
Hello. So great to be on.
I feel like it's been too long. One, since we've seen your faces, but two, since we've had you on the show. How have things been for you guys? I know you guys are always very, very busy with the stores and everything like that. But how is the day-to-day life for you guys?
Things are good. Yeah. Yeah. Backpacking, trying to race prep. Retail's super, super busy. Anybody out there's looking for a job, send Brian Seattle.com. Like in all industries right now, it seems it's tough to find help. And so we're definitely getting by, but I feel like we're both, and our whole staff, everyone's wearing many different hats just because there's a lot. It's great to have people back in the store and things to be bustling, but it seems a little chaotic too, but it's good. It's fun.
That's funny because I remember when we had you on the show towards the beginning of the pandemic in kind of regards to what's happening with retail, what's happening with running stores. And at the time you had to make some serious pivots. And I know, Andrea, you helped out with the store for years and just made that ship move. You guys had to make some serious pivots at the beginning of the pandemic. Is that now shifting back in the opposite direction? Like you're saying that the store is busy. Like what's going on that end for you guys?
No, total. I mean, it's a 180-degree flip from, we were doing things like trying to fit shoes in this scenario where somebody's on the other side of looking at a screen trying to assess their feet and size them for shoes. And because people weren't coming in or because we weren't open, I was driving around town delivering shoes. So now people are coming in, walking into the store like the good old days. And lots of them. It's great.
That is good. Andrea, are you still helping out at the ballot store now?
Yeah, with both stores. Yeah.
So Andrea's like doing all of the, like, so much. not tying shoes and slinging shoes like me, but pretty much everything else.
In the background.
Yeah.
So really, we should be just interviewing Andrea. Brian, thanks for coming. We appreciate your time.
Vivian in the chat does mention it was GRL episode number 304 near the beginning of the pandemic when we talked to Brian.
60 episodes ago.
Wow.
Brian, you should have been on all 60 of those episodes. You too, Andrea.
You and everyone else would have grown very weary of that. But.
Well, I know that you guys are two extremely hardworking individuals. Just being a small business owner and being one of the most well-known running shops in the Seattle area, now two most well-known running shops in the Seattle area, I can only imagine just how much of your time is occupied with that. And also knowing you guys are looking for employees means you guys are probably having to work extra hard to fill the gaps, and all your employees are working extra hard to sort of fill those gaps. How do you find the time to be parents? Like, how do you find that time to take care of the kids and to even think about the adventure we're going to talk about on tonight's show? Is it hard? Are you constantly fighting to do it?
You go ahead. Yeah.
I feel like when the hard part is when we're like, I'm home and I'm trying to work and they're around and I try to give them activities or, go to the community center. How about you guys go on a bike ride or, so that it's just not screens. But where the magic really happens is when we leave the house and we go to Gasworks for a picnic dinner or we go to Idlewood to go swimming. Like when we're away, then it's just really fun. And so we try to have lots of those opportunities throughout the week for either myself and the kids or Brian and the kids or all of us. Because I'm sure a lot of parents now are feeling the same way. Like our kids aren't in care, they're at home and it's, you're trying to have meetings and emails and they're around but they've been amazing throughout all of this. And so, yeah, it's going to be honestly weird in September when they go back to school full time. Right. Yeah, done that for a very long time.
You're bringing up some things that I'm like, these are great talking points. I've been meaning to talk to you guys about just as friends. Is like, you're now entering your second summer with your kids at home, probably less so working from home for you guys, but we have lots of community members who are still work from home or at least their jobs sort of transition to home, that sort of thing. Is it easier the second time around now that you're in your second summer and the kids are not in school? Is it easier, or does that term never come up? When it comes
Asks
to
the two
kids?
people without children.
Because she's the one who's actually, doing work from home. Like I'm still, so she can speak to it much better, I think, than I can.
I guess I would say there's less fear, even though it obviously keeps changing. Like there was just so much fear and unknown last year. We were so protective of the kids and what they could and couldn't do, and but this time around, they're so comfortable with unfortunately with this concept of COVID. They're like superstars wearing masks, but they do go out and meet up with friends, and we are able to do more things right now within our community, our circle of friends and family, so that feels easier. Like hugging grandma this summer, we weren't last summer, so I don't know, it's kind of wild though. I was actually just talking to Brian's mom today and how things have sort of shifted, at least here in our neck of the woods, and how it had been feeling so positive, and now you're just kind of wondering, are we backtracking? And then I was like, are we really still going to be talking about this come March, and we're going to have a 2-year anniversary? So I don't know. The kids, we just follow their lead because they take it a day at a time. They're not thinking about the future or stressing out, so do the best that we can. We try and keep it fun, and
Yeah. And just going back, Ethan, to what you were asking about, like the actually taking off the time, I think we've been planning that for 3, maybe 4 months. And we got a little bit lucky, and I just I really stressed to staff, like, this is really important for our family. I'll try and work around as many schedule requests as I can outside of these dates if this can happen. And everybody, understood it was really important for us to be able to go, and staff was great, and the stores totally thrived. In fact, we should be gone more, probably.
The stores were busier than they've ever been.
Maybe I should just go.
We went to the store.
Yeah, it was like the one time that we're going. Brian and Andrea, not there. We've got to go. I can't imagine like having to plan that far in advance just to like forget getting scheduling and all that sort of stuff aligned. Is an important sort of note here with a trip like this, where you were both having to take time away from small business, and when you take time away from small business, especially as the owners, it's you're really lifting a weight and putting it on other people's shoulders and trusting that that's going to happen. Obviously both Kim and I running Ginger Runner is you step away for 24 hours and it's like, man, I hope everything will survive. 6 days is a whole nother thing. So I can imagine that planning is really important in this. At what point in the planning phases did you tell Jack and Amalia, the kids? Because do you tell them early in the process so they get really excited, or do you tell them late? Are they excited about a trip like this? How did the communication happen?
Pretty early on.
Yeah, right away.
And I think they were excited, but there's only so much excitement you can have about something that you've never experienced, So I think their excitement was like, hey, I'd be like, hey, are you guys excited? This is going to be awesome. And they're like, yeah, Dad, it's going to be really great. Like it was a lot of feigned excitement just to you feel better about it. But yeah.
They were, it wasn't like if we had just said, we're going to Disneyland, but.
And there were some like fun items along the way, like they each got new backpacks. And so there was enough sort of like items that they got to thing, gear is fun even when you're from kid to adult. New gear is cool.
Yeah.
So that kept them engaged too.
Like a few weeks after they found out, we went and picked up some freeze-dried backpacking meals. Everyone got to pick one, and so we had it at home, and so they could like see what it looked like and what it tasted like, just to get them excited. They're like, this tastes funny. It's like, well, you'll be so hungry, it'll be delicious.
It tastes different on a regular stove.
We should have that tonight.
We should have Mountain House mac and cheese tonight for dinner.
But do it outside.
Beef stroganoff.
Oh,
right. Oh, sorry.
No, we'll eat that for you, Brian.
We'll eat it. Yeah. We'll eat it for you, Brian. It's fine. If Brian says it, we'll do it.
For all I know.
Probably is.
A reminder to our live viewers, we are live with Brian and Andrea Morrison talking about just getting into their
Just
6-day
getting into it.
backpacking trip. But we have questions. If you have questions for them, please, of course, drop it in the chat. Kim, what do we got?
Yeah, I think just because we're just starting to talk about the planning of the situation, there's a great question from Brian McDermott in the chat room. And Brian says, were less ambitious alternatives considered? And why were they ultimately not as tempting?
Yeah, so let's set the stage as 6 days is one thing, because it's 6 days of backpacking, but
I
also
feel like planning 6 days of backpacking for us is a lot.
I'm already stressed, and we don't have the plan. So let's set the stage. Like, yeah, what made you choose this destination, these circumstances, all that
Over
stuff,
this many
over
days.
this many days?
Should I tell my version or your
There you go, guys.
I already love it.
we both we were like, what are we gonna do this summer? And we had thrown out some other ideas like,
Well, first, credit to Andrea. We have to take a week as a family and just get away, and I'm always like so in the moment of like, it's just hard for me to think a couple months in advance, and it just seems so like daunting, like I would whatever. So thankfully Andrea was like, we're doing this, and picked the dates, and like, you know, when she set the dates, I, you know, put those on the schedule, and that was just what it was. But I think we were talking about going to Bend. Maybe
yeah,
initially.
we were gonna do a road trip to Bend, very different. And then that's when Brian started talking about a backpacking trip, and I was like, oh well, that's not going to Bend, but that sounds fun. But I think that as most adults going backpacking with kids for the first time, in my head, I assumed we were talking about 1 or 2 nights for the first time. So Brian and I've gone backpacking twice.
Yeah.
Before kids though, so it's been, you know, Jack's turning 11 here in a couple weeks, so it's been at least 11 years for me. And then Brian's like, yeah, backpacking, yeah, this sounds great, da da da. And this is completely in his wheelhouse. Like normally when we plan trips, I'm the one that does all the planning and logistics, and I love it. And then I was like, you've got this one. You know, figure out the route. And then Brian actually proposed this 6-night trip. And I was like, oh. Let's hear a little bit more about this. What do you mean?
Well, I don't think I even proposed it. I think that you're just like, you plan it, and so I booked you know, because we went into the Olympic National Park, you actually have to reserve these spots in advance. And so initially we had planned to go point to point and have 2 cars. You know, it's very much like running. I'd prefer not to do an out and back. I want to just see new terrain the whole way through. And so that was our original plan. And the only reason we didn't do we opted for the 6 or the 5 night as opposed to the 6 night is we had to change up our itinerary a little bit because of some snow in the high country still.
Okay.
That Ranger made it sound like maybe even as adults we wouldn't want to go up there, and probably with 2 children we didn't want to go up to La Crosse Basin based on conditions. So that's how we lost a night in the process of that change.
It's I mean, just the Olympic National Park is such a beautiful part of our state. I did my outdoor education there in 5th grade. I'm pretty proud of that.
Was it for 5 nights?
Actually, I think it was for exactly 5 nights. But I think by night 2, I did not want to be there. I don't even think I made it through 1 night. I was just like, I don't want to be here. I want to go home. So that is where my brain is going with this, is like, as an adult, I'm like, this sounds awesome. 6 days adventure. You've got point to point or even a loop or an out and back in the Olympic National Park is gorgeous scenery, high alpine, high ridge lines, all sorts of stuff. The kids, did they know what they were getting themselves into, or was it just excitement because this is different? They've never done it before.
Yeah, I think it was. I don't even know that it was excitement. It was just more like, yeah, well, cool. We'll trust in your plan, I guess. Also, I guess just to actually answer the question, which I didn't really answer, I never considered going for, once we decided we're going backpacking, I was like, well, then we're going to go backpacking. We're not going to dabble with a night. We're gonna
There's
make the
anything
most of
wrong
it.
with that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. But I just thought, like, it sounded so incredible to me to be away from. I mean, of course, there's no cell reception, there's no email, there's no screens, there's not, like, it's just nature, and that sounded really appealing to me.
I am also curious of training because, taking on a 6-day adventure, how many miles were you planning on doing each day? And did the kids get any training beforehand? Like, did you go out on day hikes and that sort of stuff? Like, what stage were you kids at as far as outdoor engagement and duration and stuff like that?
Our kids are pretty active. So it wasn't like we were doing like actual physical training. The thing that we wanted them to make sure that they were comfortable with was the pack, just because it's a lot. So we did 2 shorter hikes, one at St. Edward's and one at Discovery with them with stuff in their packs so they could like figure it out. But then we did a 3rd one to Malacca Lake, and that was a good test. And that was a couple weeks before, 1 week before.
Yeah.
And that was my biggest worry. I just remember from backpacking how, your shoulders can start to hurt and that starts to happen day 1, day 2, and there's still all this time left. I didn't want them to get discouraged.
The Malacca Lake was, I think, a confidence builder for the kids, but it was a real eye opener, I think, for Andrea when she realized, like, wow, we were out here 9 hours, I think, to go up to Malacca Lake and back.
It's slow going.
It's 4 miles up, 4 miles down, basically. I mean, it's a good amount of vert. It's not an easy trail, but perfect way to sort of train and at least gauge, I think, what you're actually in for. So your 6-day trip, what was the daily mileage? Like, what were you thinking? What was the plan?
I mean, I could break it down exactly. We did 40 miles over 6 days. So our first day was like, we thought 9 miles. This is another thing that we can touch on, but we thought it was going to be like 9 miles based on Gaia. And then our second day was like 6.5. And then our third day was, was 0. We stayed actually 2 nights. So that was really great. And our third day was almost 11, our fourth day. 5th day was like a 5.5. And then out was like 7.5 or something.
So it's pretty good. I mean, those are some pretty big days, and especially that 11-mile day. I mean, that's a pretty big journey. I know that we do again have some live questions. I want to get through those as we get them. Kim, what do we got?
Question from Jean in the chat room. They ask, what snacks or candy do you keep as a secret treat for any low points?
Well, we actually got advice from one of Jack's classmates' parents. So we did not have any secret treats, but what we did have was a Skittle supply that they had each their own in their pack, and they were allowed to just help themselves whenever they needed it. And that actually was amazing, and the Skittles didn't melt or anything. So, but
also knowing that what they had was like for the day. And so they were really good at like rationing it out as well. And then they didn't just like grab it.
Just taking the whole bag and like,
sounds
it's
like
gone.
They sound more responsible with candy than I am.
We've been hiking. We haven't even left the car.
Just rainbow stained
They're all gone? All right. Well, we're screwed. I am curious. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Andrea.
We had hot cocoa for them in the evening some of the nights, and that was a big treat. So like we'd have dinner and then we'd have the hot cocoa. And then I had stumbled upon this. It was like a total impulse buy, but the Starbucks Via coffee. Yeah. That's what we had for our coffee, but I had seen Starbucks Via latte. So it comes in this thicker thing. And man, that was a lovely after dinner treat for us as well. So
just eating the powder. Tastes like a latte. It's so good.
It's amazing.
What were the kids carrying? Because I'm pretty sure I know some parents. Was it
everything?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I know some parents would be like, the kids are carrying everything. What did they carry versus what did you guys carry?
And did that stay the same for the trip?
Oh, and yeah, did that stay the same?
So I'm not going to remember exactly what they carried, but Amalia's pack was about 13 pounds. and Jack's pack was 16.5, 17 pounds. So they each carried their own sleeping bag. They and some pots and pans and a little bit of. Jack actually carried the. We took 2 kind of larger bear canisters with us and one that was like half size or whatever. And Jack carried the smaller bear canister. So yeah, I don't remember exactly what they had, but those were the weights that when we had packed up their bags ahead of time and actually weighed them. Because I think the general rule is like they shouldn't be carrying more than 20% of their body weight. And so.
Interesting. I didn't know if there was like an equation for that. I mean, I guess that makes sense. Maybe let's get to another live question.
Yeah. A question from A2B2. A2B2 says, question for both. Were there any particular moments that stuck out to you as growth moments for you and or the kids? Andrea's face.
Well, I was thinking, so there's 2 things that were memorable. So, Ethan, you had mentioned like when we said that our 4th day was over 11 miles, I was like, oh, that's a big day. And that was the day that I was most concerned about because it was going to be distance and elevation, and we're halfway into the trip. But it turned out that the 2 other days that we thought were going to be easier days because they were shorter, those turned out to be harder. So I like the growth for the kids is just like what you present to them. Like on the day that we were like, oh, this is going to be our short, easy day, but then we still was elevation and it still was hard because you're telling them it's going to be short and easy, and none of it's short and easy. It's all long. That was hard. But that one day, because we like prepped them for it, we actually bribed them as well. So maybe good parenting, bad parenting, I don't know. But we told them that if we could make it to the campground in 10 hours, and if they did not complain once, we would give, Brian said, we'll give you each $20. And then I said, or you can pick, you can either each get $20 or the family gets $100 for a family fun activity after this trip. And they picked the $100 for our family fun activity. And they went the entire time, and it ended up being an 8.5-hour day. So we were faster than we expected. They did not complain. There was some great elevation, but it was like, that was their mentality. Like, we're going to do this. Today's going to be really hard. We can do this there. We did a lot of trivia on the trail. So like one of the adults would ask a question and they would buzz in and answer, just to keep them moving. And
Yeah. I think one thing, I don't know about growth necessarily, but I think the kids definitely like learn to overcome some things. But I know myself, one thing that I learned is I would fall into this trap of thinking of things like a trail runner. Like if it was 2 miles away, it's like, we're almost there. Like and then the way we were going, that was an hour and a half or whatever. And so I had to sort of check myself in terms of, because I'd be like, oh, we are so close, we're almost there. And then 20 minutes later, 30 minutes later, God, I thought you said we were almost there. It's like, well, yeah, I guess we're a little further than almost, that was something I Andrea was getting annoyed with me at times when
I may have said once on day 2, can you please stop saying we're almost there? He's like, okay. So the thing is, it's actually like trail running. Like if we kept like pushing out our snack breaks, we had those kind of loosely timed. But if we were trying to plan it out like, oh, well, we're almost there mileage wise, but that never worked. But if we just did it like time wise, and they knew that every hour we're going to stop and take our packs off and eat something, that worked so much better.
It's interesting. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it sounds very much like a runner at mile 96
exactly
and
what I
a
was gonna
pacer
say.
at mile 96, and them being like, you're almost there. You're almost, it's just right around the corner.
You've
You're
got
almost
4
there.
miles
Yeah.
to the finish line. Like you're so close.
And then you being like, can you stop telling
Shut your
me
mouth.
that I'm almost there?
Shut it.
Exactly.
I will say it was great having, obviously, Brian with us and anchoring our family, because he is, Mr. Optimistic out there. So whenever one of the 3 of us were feeling a bit down about the challenge, he was like, you guys are doing great. My family's awesome. Everyone's kicking butt. So,
And by day 6, you're all just like, Dad, we know we're awesome. Shut it. I am actually curious. You kind of brought it up there. I am curious. What were the low points like? Because as families listen to this and go, maybe my family can do this.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't want to gloss over the fact that there's probably some learning moments. What were some of the low points and how did you get through them?
Yeah. And I will ask this because this was asked, the same question asked differently, but has a very special line in there. A2B2 asked, what was the real low points of the trip? Any Christmas tree stories from this adventure?
Well, I will say there were no Christmas tree stories, thankfully. But the low, I think we all would agree that the second day from 9 Stream Camp to the Upper Duckabush Camp was 6.5 miles, but the hardest day. We went up and over the first divide, which I think the first divide is like 4,800 feet, the high point there. So it was, if I remember correctly, we might have climbed like 2,500 feet that day or something. But there were also several downed trees as we were, it was still kind of, because we had a big snow year, there haven't been that many people yet out there. And so the trail from the first divide to the Upper Duckabush had, I think, 10 old growth big trees down over the trail. So it's like pack some, throw them up and over, hoist the kids over. So yeah, that was kind of a long day. And on the way up actually to the first divide, Amalia was like, from the get-go, the climbing was just like a struggle for her. And I brought a piece of chopped down old climbing rope. I don't know. I just thought, I'd heard some of the river fords could be a little dicey. So I thought, a piece of rope, it's like 30 feet long, would just be handy to have. And I don't know what made me think of it. I know they do this in adventure racing sometimes, but I tied it off, clipped it to my bag, and wrapped it around her waist. And so she was like 15 feet or so behind me with it just around her waist. And it gave her just enough of an assist that it made things a little easier for her, but it also kept her moving. And that was a game changer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I would say for Jack, I think his lowest point was the lunchtime on day 2. And that was because of what we talked about earlier in terms of like, well, we're going to wait till we're at this one place. And then finally he just refused to move. And it was not a scenic place to just drop everything and have lunch, but that's what we did. So that was definitely a low point. But then once again, he ate and he felt better. And so his, mind shifted. And I would say my low point was climbing over all those trees. Like, that's just not my strength in terms of balance. And there's like a couple where I was like, are you sure you have the kids? You just don't want anyone to like fall or hurt themselves. I would say those were some of the low points. Yeah.
I can't help but like imagine like National Lampoon's Family Vacation style, right? Going to Wally World or any of that sort of stuff, where the first few days of the adventure are just chaos. Was there a magic moment? Was there a moment that sort of shifted what the hell did we just decide to, or like, what are we doing, to I can't believe we're doing this. It's working. And I think the kids are enjoying it. Like they're unplugged and we're all a family. Was there a magic moment for you? And when was that?
Probably. I didn't feel like ever that, it was too much of a struggle, but I definitely think our third day, the decision to spend, which was built into the plan, but to spend 2 nights at the Upper Duckabush, where we had a day where we just there was no expectation of going anywhere or doing anything. We just played in the river, we fished, the kids played cards in the tent, read books. It was great. And that, I would say that's really, like, I guess when things clicked, but it's not like things were too clunky prior to that either.
Yeah, and even like the next day when we're climbing back out of the Duckabush towards First Divide, like we come across this one open area that's just gorgeous. And Jack turns to me and he's like, this is so beautiful. And not everyone gets to see this. And you're just like, it's happening. But yeah, there were no screens. There was nothing. It was just, we had backpackers bocce ball. We had 2 decks of cards. they had little notebooks. So they were doing a science journal, and they had their Swiss Army knives. So they were some whittling happening.
That's awesome. So always something for them to do. I am curious what they thought of this trip. So I think now would be a great opportunity to actually bring on Jack and Amalia, who are now 6 days stronger, more mountain prepared. Look at this.
Oh,
like Jack's already got the strength. Amalia's got the strength. So strong. So I'm super curious. I'll ask both of you, what was your favorite part? Let's start with Jack. Jack, what was your favorite part of the 6 days in the Olympics?
Going to Flapjack Lake because it's Jack Lake if you pick up the flap.
That's a great answer.
I think that's the perfect answer. Amalia, what about you? What was your favorite part?
Probably being out in the outdoors in the nature.
Have either of you guys done anything like that before? Have you gone camping or gone camping for like multiple nights anywhere like that?
No, not really.
Well, we've gone car camping.
Well, yeah.
Like car camping.
Not like 6 days.
Yeah.
If one of your friends came up to you at school and was like, Jack, was that cool or what? Like, what would you answer? Were you like, yes, it was awesome? Or, I don't know, not really my thing. What would you say?
I would say awesome.
What about you, Amalia?
Awesome.
Now, Amalia, your dad said that he had this rope rigged up. I saw a picture of it. It looked pretty cool. Like it was kind of helping. Did you like the rope as an assist, or was that like you were over it?
It really helped.
Did it really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Jack, did you have to use the rope?
No.
You're going to ask him?
Oh, we'll try that next time we're out hiking.
Oh, is that what you're going to use for me?
No, that's what you're going to use for me.
Okay.
I'll just lay back. In
I
the
like
rope.
the idea. And then I was super curious, like your gear choices, because I know that you all got some cool gear, whether it's a backpack or shoes. So we can go down the line. I want to talk to both Brian and Andrea too. What was your one piece of favorite gear that you had on this trip? Brian, let's start with you. We'll go Brian, Jack, Amalia, and Andrea.
Oh, I would say maybe this is kind of gross, but I wore the same pair of Diori shorts the entire time. They were awesome.
Clothes and washed them along the way.
What about you, Jack?
For me, it was probably my shoes because they're actually really comfy. Yeah.
What?
They're the Lone Peak Ultra.
Nice choice.
What about you, Amalia?
Probably my sleeping bag.
Ooh, cool.
That's a solid answer.
Solid
I
answer.
like
Did you have to
that.
carry it yourself, or did you have mom or dad carry it?
I carried it myself.
Andrea?
I'm just saying what my mom's gonna say.
Oh, you want to guess?
You guys want to guess?
Yeah, her inflatable pillow.
Oh, I wasn't actually going to say that, but that was a mandate for this trip. I was like, I need a better inflatable mattress and I need a pillow because I'm 41 and I need to be comfortable on this trip. And it was great. But I will actually say my favorite piece of gear, when I told Brian I was bringing, he's like, oh, that's extra weight. And then he ended up doing the same, was my flip-flops. Like what would get me through like with the hard moments, and I was just, tired, just knowing that once I got to camp, I would take my shoes and socks off and just slip on my flip-flops. My Ufos flip-flops,
That was it.
It's there. I was like, I'm not looking forward to eat. Like, of course I'd eat or whatever, but that wasn't what got me to finish the day. Yeah. Flops.
I'm also curious, Jack and Amalia. So we have people watching who might be parents or they might be kids, and they might be thinking like, hey, I want to go do this backpacking trip. This sounds awesome. So Jack, and I'll ask you both individually. Let's start with Jack. What would be your one piece of advice that you would give someone who's going to go do 6 days of backpacking? What would you tell them to do?
Bring Skittles.
Yes.
Okay, how many Skittles?
Well, as much as you want. Yeah.
Correct answer.
That's a perfect answer.
Amalia, what would be your one piece of advice for someone who's going to go on a big hiking trip like you did?
Kind of like what Jack said, is just bring candy, but not a whole backpack full, not as much as you want. Probably just what we did was we had a big Ziploc bag, and that kept our Skittles. And then me and Jack had littler Ziploc bags, so we keep in our backpack. And we just kept filling that up. So what I would say is keep a big one and two tiny ones if there's two of you.
Perfect. That's great advice.
Really good advice.
Yeah, super good advice. And I think the last. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Brian.
How about like mentally? What would you like? What like when it got hard? What got you through it? What advice would you give if somebody thought it was going to be really hard?
I just told myself that later tonight you'll sleep and you'll have a great night rest. Yeah. I told myself that once I get to camp, I can just relax.
Nice.
See, that's great advice.
That's really great advice.
I think that also applies to like ultra running too and everything like that. Once you get to your destination, you can just relax.
You can take your shoes off and put your flip-flops
on. You can
some candy. I will say our first 2 days on the trail while we were hiking, both times we went past this group of teenagers that were out doing a backpacking trip. There was probably like 10 of them. There were a lot. And we said hi and we kept going. And then we got to our campsite, and then a while later they showed up, and I pointed out to the kids, I was like, you realize that you were stronger and faster. Maybe they were having a hard day, but like it's okay that you're this age and they're older, and like look what you did. And then it happened again the next day, and so they felt really proud that just because they're 8 and almost 11 years old, it's not like you can't go backpacking or hiking.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, very
you guys
cool.
are super cool for doing this, because I think I didn't do my first backpacking trip until I was like 15, 16 maybe. So you guys are doing really cool, big stuff, like mountain stuff, at an age where most kids aren't doing that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You guys are super strong, and it's really impressive. And I think now would be a really fun story time. So Jack and Amalia, maybe there's one moment you remember. What's a funny story about mom and dad from this trip? So we've heard mom and dad talk about you guys. What's a funny story from them? What did they do that was funny or like silly?
My mom paid me my mom was about to pay me $300 because she didn't want to jump into Flapjack Lake.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, so give them a little. So
basically, it was the hike to Flapjack Lake, and it was kind of hard for me. And at a little, pretty far, we were pretty close. Well, not pretty close. We were maybe 1 mile or 2 miles from Flapjack Lake, and my mom said, if you don't complain anymore, until we get to camp, I'll jump into Flapjack Lake. And then we waited like 45 minutes. She didn't. So then she was about to give me $300, and then she finally jumped in.
yeah, we must have killed an hour out on this log after I jumped in and the kids jumped in, and Andrea had promised to jump in. And I mean, it was easily nearly an hour we all spent like, okay, are you going to go? Go for it.
You pushed me.
No, it's not my favorite thing to jump into cold lakes.
I could use $300. Kim, do you want to jump in?
For the record, I did not offer $300. Just someone, you have 5 minutes to jump in, or else you're giving me $300.
Oh, okay. So it was Amalia's rule.
An hour of waiting.
Well, this was awesome, you guys. It's just such a cool adventure that you guys got to go on. Did you take good photos? You guys have lots of photos and stuff?
Yeah.
Good. I can't wait to see some of them, because it just sounds amazing, and we're just so envious. You guys are so cool, and you got to do something really, really awesome. I think from this point forward, Flapjack Lake should now be known as Jack Lake.
Yeah.
There's or $300 lake, either one.
We have a photo of Jack. He was holding the sign up to Flapjack Lake, and he had cut off Flap, so it said Jack Lake. The sign when truly I was just covering Flap, and yeah.
Our guest tonight from right to left is Brian Morrison, Jack Morrison, Amalia Morrison, and Andrea Morrison. Thank you guys so much for sharing your story. This has been awesome.
It's been really, really fun.
Way to go, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Brian and Andrea, is there any last minute advice that you would have for parents who are going to undertake something like this? I hope people are inspired by this, because what a great adventure to share. So any last minute advice for any parents who are like, I want to do this now?
Clearly it takes some planning. So it's not something you want to just wing without, like we thought things out very carefully, but don't be afraid of it. I mean, I can't tell you how many parents that we get talking about the summer plans, and I said, oh, we're going to go backpacking. And then it would come up that we were going to go for 5 or 6 nights, and parents like, what? How? So you must backpack all the time? It's like, no, not really. And so it was just like kind of mind blowing to them, but it's really, it doesn't take that much, a little bit of planning. Obviously you got to get your permits if you're going someplace where you need to have permits. Food was probably the biggest stressor. Like that all fell on me. I just wanted to make sure that nobody was going hungry out there. Yeah. But that's easily calculated and figured out. And I would just say go for it. Like don't be intimidated by it. Respect where you're going and respect Mother Nature, but don't be afraid of it either.
Awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
And I would
go ahead, Andrea.
I would add that don't worry about don't be really stressed out about your kids being uncomfortable. That was one of the things we talked about going into it, that it was, we were all going to experience discomfort, and we were just going to support each other and do it. And that was going to be part of the process. And it was like we talked about, it wasn't all easy. There was definitely hard times, but no one ever wanted to quit and turn around and head back to the car. So these kids were awesome. It was really fun.
Well done, Morrison family. It was also just awesome to chat with you guys and catch up and hear a little bit more about the adventure. And hopefully this does inspire some families to get outdoors, respect nature, and find a cool adventure to take their kids on and stuff like that. So we appreciate your stories. And if you were to plug anything, I know you have 4 individuals, but probably lots to plug. Brian or Andrea or the kids, where can people follow you or follow some photos or see some photos from the adventures, or like an Instagram,
like an upcoming race,
or an upcoming race perhaps that Brian is race director for?
Yeah, Teanaway Country 100, that's our race in September 11th. So that you can follow at Teanaway Country 100.
We need volunteers.
Yeah, always looking for volunteers. That's, good call. Volunteers and employees at the store. So.
Awesome. Our guests tonight have been the Morrisons, talking to us about their recent 6-day trip through the Olympic Mountain Range. We're going to move into our after show, where we get to just ask any residual questions from the main show, maybe find out 1 or 2 more stories from the adventure with Brian and Andrea and the kids. So stick around for the after show if you'd like to join us there. All you got to do is go to patreon.com/thegingerrunner, join the GR crew, and you get access to all of our after shows. We do like to spend the end of our shows recognizing members. These words will happen.
You got this.
We like to spend the end of our shows recognizing members of the community who go above and beyond. We call them our GR crew members of the week, people who push past their own limits and do something awesome. Kim, who is this week's GR crew member?
This week's GR crew member of the week is Crispin Flowerday. And Crispin wrote and said that he managed to win the Skyline 21K. Goes on to say, was pushed really hard by the female winner, who absolutely crushed it, but hung on. My first ever win. And Crispin also rocked the New Balance RC Elite version 2s on the trails, as per your suggestion.
I did recommend them. They are a dynamite shoe. Review coming soon. Congratulations, Crispin. Well earned. And, we have lots of crew members that race this weekend. Congratulations to all of you. We see some of you in the chat,
too. There's a photo of Crispin on the podium on the Discord server as well.
Well done, Crispin. Thank you, crew. We'll see you all next week for more Ginger Runner Live. Check out the review that dropped today and daily live streams called Daily Brew over on the crew page and stuff like that. So thanks, all. Get out there, train hard, race harder, and part of the hardest. We'll see you in the after show. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ginger Runner.